Man, having all sorts of trouble today. It's Saturday night. That means it's time to run it back. We're the Peach Basket, a site dedicated to being really more than just a website, but rather a community of like-minded, passionate basketball fans. It's what we are. It's what we do. Tonight, it's just me. And I've shared before when on nights like this that I'd much rather just talk to people. I think that's it's a lot more fun that way to have conversation and debate with like-minded, passionate basketball fans. Unfortunately, today it looks like you're just going to have to hear me ramble. So because of that, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of give the information we're going to present kind of center stage as opposed to me. Now, there's still an off chance somebody might join. If so, that'd be great. But otherwise, all we're going to do today is take a look at the first series. The first round is complete with the exception of one game. We'll talk about how our fan experts did in terms of their predictions. Then we're going to go ahead and present the second round predictions. Now, the superstar update is something I would love to talk about. But again, I'm not going to just do that on my own. If somebody jumps on, we can have a debate about that, or at least just talk about it. And that's specific to Kevin Durant's call out to Jason Tatum about him being that next superstar. We generally superstars are born in the playoffs. Is Devin Booker in that conversation? Is Jason Tatum in it just because Kevin Durant says he is? So that was the topic. I think it's certainly interesting. Probably something we'll talk about later when we have more people. Today, what I want to focus on is this. These were our predictions for the first round in the Western Conference. How'd we do? Well, our fan experts did pretty darn good, if you think about it. Take a look at this. First off, we love the Lakers. And I think, and certainly LA would agree, that if they were healthy, maybe things would have ended up a little differently than they did. But they weren't, and it didn't. The Suns took it. We had the Lakers winning pretty overwhelmingly, but we did have somebody who picked the Suns in 6. Not only picked the Suns, but accurately picked the number of games. So shout out to Nick for that pick. And again, it just goes to show not all the experts are on TV. Utah Jazz was pretty easy pick. We had the bulk of our team pick them in 5. They won over a very game Memphis Grizzlies team. Ja Morant is another one who could be in that "is he a superstar now" conversation. But the Jazz we did okay on. Now, Portland and the Nuggets. We had Portland, but by a razor-thin margin. I think we may have voted with our hearts there. Everybody wants to see Dame get a little closer to a ring. He didn't get it. We did have one person pick the Nuggets in 6. I'll be honest with you. I was shocked to find it was me. I did not know that. I honestly was rooting for the Blazers. I thought they would win. But I guess when the rubber hit the road, I picked the Nuggets in 6. And that's why we make these picks, so that we are kind of held accountable. In this case, it was a good thing for me. Of course, with the Clippers, we don't know yet. The Clippers just were amazing. I thought in game 6, in beating the Mavs, we finally saw the Clippers team that we saw in the regular season. A team with Kawhi being the superstar, Paul George being, A1 to his superstar A, and then all the other role players finding their role. When they play like that, they're really tough to beat, and they played like that in Dallas in game 6, forcing a game 7. We had, about 33% of our team picked the Clippers in 7. That could still happen. Of course, the Mavericks win, and then, this looks pretty bad for us. But let's see how tomorrow goes. That was it for the West. Let's take a look at the East. These were our picks. We'll start off with the first one that we didn't get right. And I don't know that anybody did. We had the Knicks pretty overwhelmingly. But I should have called this out because that X kind of hides it a little bit. We did have one person call out the Hawks in 7, but picked the Hawks, which was a pretty bold choice. So a special shout out to Jamal for picking the Hawks to win. And they look good doing it. They won in 5, not in 7. but I don't think anybody except Jamal really saw them advancing against the Knicks. Let's go to the next one. The Nets. The Nets were supposed to just steamroll the Boston Celtics. I did not think that they would sweep them. They didn't. Boston got one win. That led to Kevin Durant calling out Jason Tatum as a superstar, says he took that next leap. We did have a good chunk of people pick the Nets in 5. But again, that was a pretty easy pick. Now the Bucks were interesting. The Bucks versus the Heat was supposed to be a competitive series. We had picked the Bucks pretty razor slim margin there, but we thought that they would be better. We did have a couple people, significant amount, really, the majority, if you look at it, picked the Heat in 7. But the majority picked the Heat to win in 7, but the overall majority picked the Bucks to win in either 6 or 7. Of course, they swept, which was pretty amazing. But at least we got the right team, which is good. And then the Sixers, that was pretty easy. Not only did we get that one right, like I think most people did, we got the number of games, pretty solidly, Sixers in 5. So the East is set. The Eastern second round matchups are set. That's what we want to talk about now. The West isn't. So I sent out the information to our team of fan experts yesterday. They responded, and these are our second round predictions. Oh man, there was supposed to be a fanfare there. Oh well. Best laid plans. Ta-da! Let's get right to it. In the West, we've got the Phoenix Suns versus the Denver Nuggets. The Suns, played phenomenal against the Lakers. The Nuggets in a really hard-fought battle without Jamal Murray against the Blazers. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. Our team picked the Suns. The majority of our fan experts picked them to win in 6. I honestly don't remember what I picked, but that certainly sounds probably on par with what I would think. I think the Suns are really just riding the wave, that they started in the bubble last season. This first round victory against the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers has got to give them the confidence they need to go in and take care of the Nuggets. The Nuggets are good. The Nuggets are great. But I think there's something special about this Suns team. Now, of course, a lot's going to depend on Chris Paul's health, but I think overall this is probably a pretty solid pick. Now we go to the Western Conference, the Eastern Conference, because the other, again, Western Conference second round matchup is not set yet. The Brooklyn Nets versus the Milwaukee Bucks. I will say, if you're watching this now, you probably know that the Nets are up 1-0. They just beat the Bucks in a game where they look pretty good, and the Bucks look really pretty bad. I don't think the Bucks are going to be that bad moving forward. And the Nets are probably what the Nets are. Of course, there's some concern over James Harden's injury. We'll see how that plays out. Our team selected the Bucks. I think the Bucks are going to win. This was a pretty close choice. The bulk of our team is picking the Bucks in 7, which I think is absolutely what I have. There's 2 schools of thought here. My feeling has always been that the Bucks are a good offensive team and a great defensive team, and the Nets are a great offensive team and an okay defensive team. And generally speaking, defense wins championships. So I see the Bucks advancing, which would be pretty amazing. Of course, they are down 0-1 right now, but today they just didn't play like the Bucks that we saw in the regular season. I don't anticipate them being that bad and shooting that bad moving forward. The last game, the Sixers versus the Hawks. The Hawks were absolutely ignored in the first round matchup and came back and beat a really good New York Knicks team. Of course, nobody's expecting much out of them against Philly. But Philly, there's some concern about Joel Embiid. That might change things. But our experts did pick the Philadelphia 76ers. Thinking it's going to be a hard-fought match with the Sixers in 6 being the top pick. at about 55%. So those are our picks. We're going to post them on our site, so they are out there for all the world to see, like we did today when the second round is over and we're into the conference championships. We're going to come back and take a look at how we did. That's it for today. Again, I'll save the conversation around the next superstars for another time when we have somebody else to talk it through with us. But thanks for joining. I appreciate you taking the time. We're the Peach Basket. We are a site dedicated to all things basketball. We're a group of fan experts who love the game. If you're watching, you're probably one as well. Reach out. We love to hear from you. Thanks again for joining. We'll talk again next week.